You know, sorry, Podbean listeners, you're late. We had some technical difficulty, but welcome to Above Average Black Men with your host, Chris Bender Sr. and Devin. Um, we're talking about charter school versus public school. So, back to my point, I think, you know, no matter where you send your kid, the parents drive, the product.
Yeah.
And I think we got it backwards. We're waiting for schools to give us better curriculum instead of demanding better curriculum. We're waiting for schools to have a more stringent educational system in place instead of demanding it. I don't hear parents, up in war about a lot of these schools don't have air conditioning, but you're talking about around the year school.
Do they have smart boards?
Parents, some of them do. Some of them do, but some of them got shoddy internet.
Yeah.
So they're, the school system is old. So a lot of schools in the Philly school system is old. And some charter schools have bought those buildings, but a lot of charter schools are newer buildings. So that's another appeal. But I think I go back to what I said. I think parents have to get involved. I think depending on who you are, I would never say one is better than the other, but I also say I believe people should have the right to choose.
Yeah.
And because if your product is not what it's, why should I send my kid to a school where, graduate, they're failing. The graduation rate is subpar. You're not changing that product. You're not putting more Wi-Fi in school. You know what I mean? You're not, paying teachers more money so you can get a better product. You're not doing any of that. The school system is kind of going the opposite direction. So why shouldn't I be able to pull my child out and put them somewhere? Because I can't afford to send them to private school. Mm-hmm. So why shouldn't I be able to pull them out and send them to public school? Now I know the debate, and Jay-Z just made it a lot worse.
Yeah, can you dive a little? Because I've heard about it. Like I saw the post on Instagram and everything. But dive a little deeper into that. What exactly is he? What is it, 300 million or something?
Well, he's siding with the Republicans, so that kind of scares me. And the thing about the Republicans is the Republicans don't do well when it comes to funding of public education. They don't. The last person that was in it, she's cutting the funding, and they probably going to cut the funding again. So I kind of think is odd that he jumps in, and why he picked Pennsylvania, I have no idea. But he jumps in, he offered money so some more kids can go to private school. Or charge. And if you can afford to send your kid to private school, cool. But it goes back to what I said, parent engagement. However, that's the big fight now because every kid that leaves a public school takes money with them. Mm-hmm. So that means that school now is getting less funding. So it's less of an opportunity, even less of an opportunity for them to do what I just got finished talking about. But I go back to I got my business FamCom. I may be the only one in it killing it. But if I get shoddy, start showing up late, start missing appointments, not coming prepared to speak and engage with things like that, I can't be mad if somebody else comes along and start something and is doing it better than me. And it's funny because it's not just charter school. You see it's leaking over into corporate America where, people, they mad at Apple now, because Apple has a monopoly. Apple, okay, they built Apple to get to where and they want products to fit Apple. Now, whether you agree or disagree, what happened to the right of free enterprise? Why should Apple be forced to have a product that Sony can use? You know what I mean? I don't understand that. I don't get what that whole argument is about because if Apple says, hey, this is just for us, then buy Apple. That's just that simple. If you really want the products that they serve, then buy Apple. But I think that's the problem when it comes to education. We don't want competition. We have a serious issue with competition, and people, like I said, people have different opinions about it. My opinion is, I think it's the same as if your child wants to go to a vocational school. Once upon a time, they had vocational schools. I think you got to go back to that, because everybody's not going to college, and it has nothing to do with intelligence. Some people just, when I get out of school in 12th grade, I'm done. School. Yeah, okay. But some people just I'm done when I get out of school. I just don't want to go to school anymore. So they don't want to go to college. Some people are better working with their hands. So I think that's the stuff that got to be factored in. So again, I don't think one is better than the other.
Yeah,
I think it depends on your child because some children in public school thrive. There are some children in public school thriving. There are some who not thriving. There's kids on record of leaving in public school, going to a charter school and doing much better. Now I don't know why because I'm not behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. Maybe they moved away from friends. I don't know. But I think, I don't understand the fight because to me, if again competition comes and improve your product.
So I have a question because I remember we were talking about trade schools, and I remember when I was in high school, they definitely did have that program, Easton, where if
Still
you're a
there.
junior or senior, you get to go to this kind of trade school half of the day. Is that not a thing in Philadelphia?
It's different, man, because they had trade schools. Like I said, they still. I don't know. I know Dobbins is still out there.
Yeah.
Not the way it used to be. It's a Randolph Skills Center. So they have it limited. But when I was going to school, you had Dobbins, Bach, you had Mass Bach. So you had schools they were trade schools. You went to class for half a day, and half a day you went to whatever trade you were taking up, whether it was printing. We had a bakery where they actually bought and sold products. We had an auto shop where they actually worked on cars. Plumbing, they had, you could learn a skill. Now then the hard part was getting into because you have to get into a union. You have to become a journeyman. You can't become a journeyman until you get into the union. You can't get into the union until you get a spot. It was a mess back then.
Yeah.
So it was hard for minorities to get in. But people walked out with skills, tangible skills, versus graduated with no skills.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying this in a facetious way, or I'm not down on anybody, but, you graduate with no skills, and Walmart has some tendency to be the choice, or some lower level job that's not paying you what you want to make because you want a certain lifestyle. And it matters. Because, even with an education, it's hard to get that dream job. So imagine without an education. And I think another thing about schools that both schools need to do a better job of is teaching social skills. I think you need to teach kids how to network.
Especially after the pandemic. I feel like that was something that a lot of kids lost.
When I was running the summer program with PYN, I'm getting some free hype. One thing I did was I did a career fair, and it was like speed dating. I had all these tables set up with real vendors, and people would come in. They had to give it because before that, I taught them a 2-minute elevator pitch. It's your 2-minute pitch. You want an elevator, you got to sell yourself. Made up resumes. They went around, and they did just like the state. It was job interviews. Some of them actually got hired to do some part-time stuff. But the reason why I say that because academics. I think there's 3 components of school that charter schools sometimes do a better job of, and I couldn't tell you why. But when I talk to people from charter schools and people that work there, the social aspect of it. I think most charter schools draw kids from different communities. So now you're being exposed to kids who live in different parts of the city. So that's a plus. A lot of schools don't. A lot of public schools don't. Most public schools get the kids in the neighborhood. They get some from outside, but the majority of kids come from the neighborhood. I think the second part of it is, it's a double-edged sword because of the, no union, but they get a lot of black males. Charter schools, the charter schools I know, they get black males. Now I couldn't tell you why either, but they do. And, I'm not saying it's not black is better than white, but our kids need to see people who look like them.
Yes.
Who can relate to them. So you don't get that in a lot of public schools because, for instance, I know a couple of schools where the teachers are 65% Caucasian female. I'm not knocking it, great, but most of those don't understand the culture within their working in. So it's hard for them to understand. So they want this kid to come right into their culture. Forget where the kid has come from, but that kid's neighborhood is the more powerful culture because that's where he spends most of his time. Wearing a hoodie.
Yeah.
I'm going to choose. I can wear a hoodie in school, even as a teacher, or not wear it in the neighborhood, and I'm not cool. Now, what do you think weighs more to a kid in school? So I think charter schools do more around that. The ones I know, not all of them, the ones I know, they do more. They do more around Black history, so they tend to attract more Black kids because they do more with Black history. They do different things. And again, I'm not down in public schools. I'm a public school graduate, and I do a lot of work after schools in public school. But I think, public school needs to come up with a way to fix it. The other difference is I think public schools education is cookie cutter is one size fits all. And
what do you mean by that?
Well, every kid doesn't learn the same way. Just like me, when I didn't learn my learning style until I was in college. I'm not somebody who could be lectured to and get all the information because I'm drifting. Especially if the guy up there, I'm drifting. And if he's animated, yeah. So I just take my tape recorder and turn it on in class, right? So I can, go back and play it over and over again. But what I found out was if it's doing some hands-on stuff, I grasped it. Or if the teacher was telling jokes or more animated, I picked it right up. But for that teacher who was melancholy and kind of talked in a monotone voice, it was hard for me to grasp. Just somebody who just talked the whole time, Or then you have teachers who just put stuff up on the board. That's not helping you. I need to see it. You got to show me. I don't want you just don't put stuff up on the board so when I come in the classroom it's already up there. I need to see you go through it because that's how I learn. And I figured it out. And by the time I got to my master's, I was rolling. Took me that long to figure it out though. But so I think when you have a cookie cutter, is assuming that you and I learn the same way. And is because I don't learn like you, I could fail. And because I fail, I'm put in the classes, or because I don't do as well as you, I'm put in classes that are viewed as being lesser classes. So what is that doing to the psyche of a lot of these kids?
So real quick, because I'm really reading up on this Jay-Z thing. On face value, before I read a little deeper, I really didn't see the issue with it. But it seems like you're not the only one saying this. That a lot of people are saying it's going to be taking money away
from schools that are already struggling.
Yeah. So,
see, to me, if he took the money and split it,
yeah,
and put the money he gave some to the school district and then charter school, I'd have felt a little better about it. And then for you to do it in Pennsylvania, where you're not from, I'm a little curious about that.
Why didn't he do it in New York?
Yeah, where you from? Yeah, why you come to Pennsylvania to do that? And, if you've been following politics, Republicans have been tough in Pennsylvania when it comes to funding education. That's just how it is. Out here in Cheltenham, we don't get much from the government for education. That's why taxes are so high. So you're coming into Pennsylvania, which is the first. I'm curious about the first thing. Why would you not do this in New York? Why would you come to Pennsylvania to do this? Then you probably, and this is not about Republican Democrat. I want to make that abundantly clear. But you're partnering with a Republican who is notorious for opposing additional funds for public education. Mm-hmm. And it's nice to say I'm giving money for kids to go to private school, but now you got the have and the have-nots because you got to have the smarts to get into a private school.
I was going to ask that. So what about these other kids?
So you're still creating the have and the have-nots because now if I'm behind because of a school I went to, I'm not eligible for that. If I went to a school that wasn't teaching me the things I need to know, I'm not eligible, so I'm still left behind.
And I have another. So right here it says going forward, students who receive scholarships ranging from $2,500 to $15,000. So what happens if you get the $2,500 but you still owe some money?
Well, I'm assuming the process is based on your income. So the assumption would be that if you got $2,500, your parents could pay the difference.
Yeah.
That assumption is more often wrong than not because they look at different things. They don't look at the total package. They look at how much you make. I don't know how deep they go into how much you owe. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but it's an interesting philosophy because again, you create a have and a have not. So I'm being penalized. I'm only getting $2,500 because you think on paper I can afford it. Maybe I can't afford it on paper because I got other issues. Maybe I got medical bills that I got to deal with.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm taking care of a sick mom or a sick dad. It's not going to show up on paper, but I'm buying medicine, I'm feeding them. That's not going to show up on the application, but that's an expense I have. And I still got to eat and live indoors. So even that is more than have and a have nots. And then again, suppose I can afford it though. But I got other things to do too. So it's interesting, man. But the system has been like that. My problem is somebody's going to get left behind, on both sides. Because typically what happens when you have a school that's not good, most of the better kids who can leave will leave. So that means more of those kids are going to leave the public school. Because now through that, they have an opportunity to go to a private school. But again, it's weak in the public education system because you're taking the cream of the crop out of the school. And at the same time, you're taking money out of the school. Now, again, politicians need to fund education. They need to, do a better job of funding education. Every school should have a modern, up-to-date computer lab. They should. Every school should have a full-fledged working library. And some schools don't even have a library. And I was in one school, they got a library, no books. They got books in their classroom, but they don't have like a library set up where, you can go and just dive into different subjects and kids can look up stuff and research stuff. And, they don't, so my question is, how do you now compete? Because you can't. Because you're competing against people who don't look like us, who went to better schools, who know how to go get a book out the library and study. You know what I mean? They know how to do research. and research teaches you how to think, strategically and how to think critically. So that's why kids can't think. They're not good at critical thinking because they don't have to, because they get it off their phone or they get. It's funny because I was watching this video, and these kids in the class and the teacher's in front of the class. So the teacher says, "Hey, let's go with these papers." So he calls him, "Oh, Jake." I'm making the names up. Guy raises. He said, "Let's talk about your paper." He said, "Dude, he said you plagiarized, man. Your sister turned the same paper in last year. You don't think I know that?" And he calls him out his name. He says, "Yeah." He says, your mom wrote this, didn't she?" So she goes, "How do you know?" Because he said there's too many spaces between the periods and the commas. He said there's an older person. And then, so then she goes, "Well, how did you figure that out?" He said, "Well, I wasn't sure until you just told me." And then there's another kid. And again, these are the issues that our kids deal with because they're not, one kid, he cut and pasted and forgot to take the reference out from where he got it from. And I'm not knocking them, but that's the problem with modern technology. People don't learn those things anymore. And to the parent piece, parent doing homework, that's not benefiting the kid. And that goes back to, do we value education? But I think it's super, it's ultra important, man, that we start looking at overhauling the system.
It's very interesting. I never realized how much, going to Cheltenham and everything, how much I took that for granted. Because those are all things that, we had, like a full library and books in the classes. We had a computer lab and different things like that. And one thing we also had was we used to use like Turnitin.com. So plagiarism, you couldn't get away with that because there were sources that could spot that out.
You can be.
I never wrote a paper for me.
No, I never. Because again, those are skills that you need. You may not have to write a paper, but you may have to write a memo. You may have a job where somebody needs you to research and give it back to them, and not give a verbal report. Give me 1 page on this. It's a skill you have to have. Like, perfect example. I kind of didn't think it was that big a deal, papers and all this stuff. I ain't gonna write papers, but now I got to write proposals for my company. I got to write. I got to be able to read a contract and understand the contract. I got to be able to write when somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, I'm having this program. I want A, B, C, D." I got to put it all together to make it make sense. So that's where the learning how to research stuff, the learning how to write stuff and put it in the proper order, get your ideas organized, that comes in handy. Just look at our political system. A bunch of morons, and they got degrees from all over the place. And some of the stuff they say is like, wow.
I will say this: having a degree doesn't make you the smartest person.
Yeah, but education does.
It's true.
And so it doesn't. And I agree because I was working for one company, man. I was a guy that graduated from the University of Pennsylvania. I swore he bought his degree because he was dumb as a bag of rocks, man. But no, but it is the education. I agree. I think there needs to see that's another show too. I think that whole system needs to be overhauled about hiring people based on a degree. I was working with somebody and they told me this one time. They said, I was training somebody to do a job that I applied for. And they said I wasn't qualified. I wasn't qualified because I didn't have a high enough level of education, which is another reason why I went back and got my master's. But, it was because when I asked, I was like, well, I don't understand because it's about education. I'm teaching dude. And to them, what she told me was, and I never forgot this, she said, is that about what you learn in education that they compare it to? It means for this particular person, it means that you show the discipline and restraint to start something and finish it in a formal setting. And I'm like, I could join a club, but so people have different reasons for it. But I do agree, it's not the ultimate measuring stick. But that's what I think, because there's people without a degree who could do a lot of these jobs. Who do a lot of these jobs. Yeah. There's people with PhDs who I know I do a better job than they do, but they got education. And education speaks, man, because we like those letters, credentials behind people's names. It garners almost instant respect.
That's true.
But I think, keeping in line with the public and the charter school, I think it comes back to parents, man. Parents got to definitely, get more involved. They got to become more engaged.
Now, I was going to say this earlier. Do you think it happens to be, because I remember when I was in school, parent teachers, that always happened like at 7 o'clock. Now, I know a lot of these parents tend to work all day and, they don't want to have to do another test. Would it be more beneficial to kind of move it up time-wise or have it on maybe like a Saturday or Sunday or something.
See, and I think that's something schools have to figure out. If I was running the school, see, that's the problem. You got teachers unions because they're not going to go for that. If I was running it, I would even set up Zoom calls. I would have parents on 15, 20-minute Zoom calls. That would be an option. Some school may be doing it, but that would be an option. Okay, I know you can't make this, but what about a 15-minute Zoom call? Like on this day would be all Zoom calls. This day would be all in person. I think that needs to happen. I think you have to make it more convenient for parents because, parents work, and some parents work 2 jobs. There's single parents. There's 2 parents who have to work 2 jobs.
Yeah.
So you don't know the circumstances, and that's what I meant by one size fits all. You got this cookie cutter system in place, and it doesn't fit everybody. That's like me saying because I wear a 9.5, that everybody else needs to wear 9. I don't care if you're a foot of 10. Put your foot in this 9.5. It don't work. It doesn't work, and the evidence is there because with each generation we're less knowledgeable. And I'm being kind when I say that. We are.
Now, let's touch on, I know we did charter versus public, but let's touch on charter versus private.
No, I think it was a private school. Is no contest, man. I think if you pick the right private school, like back in your day, Ivy Leaf.
Yeah.
That was in a class by itself.
That's still right?
I don't think so. She emphasized reading. She emphasized math. They analyzed the data and said, these are what our kids are struggling with, so we're going to emphasize these things. And they kept up with the time. So, I think a good private school, yeah. And in private school, because they charge tuition, parents have a tendency to be a little more engaged. Because they charge tuition, they typically have more funds to do things. It all comes down to dollars. It comes down to dollars. I think, for me, I think it goes back to the system needs to be funded better. It does. They need to figure out. Jalen Hurts donated $200,000 so they get air conditioners. That's one athlete. Imagine if every athlete that played here donated something to the school district. Just imagine that. That money will help school districts tremendously. A lot of these buildings probably need to be torn down. Torn down. And they do, because they're antiquated, they're old, they paint over asbestos and all kind of crazy stuff. I'm in a situation right now where I'm going back to Ford's District because we're holding a summer camp at a school that don't have air conditioning. And they're going to tell me the building is air conditioned because they have 3 classes that has air conditioning. Really?
Which I got to use them 3 rooms all the time?
Well, one of them is the principal office. But anyway, it's a different story. But that's what's happening in public education. That tells me that you don't care about these kids. You just, to me, the way I read it as you want to say you have something in that neighborhood, but you put them in a place where they shouldn't be. Well, you wouldn't put your kid there. And the people making decisions are probably sitting in the air conditioning office as they make those decisions.
Well, they probably never really even been in a public school.
They came and visited the school and talked about how hot it was and spent most of their time in the library. So you would think they would recognize the fact that, we got to do something about it for these kids and for fellow teachers.
Yeah.
It was a conscious decision not to. Even we're having a discussion and you're telling me to go, you were there. It's not air conditioning. It's not air conditioning. Well, the engineers came and looked at the building. Well, they must have been led by Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder because there's no way they walked that building and saw air conditioners. It's no way they did. However, that's a perfect example where, charter schools get the edge because a lot of them have air conditioning. And I'm not saying that's a deciding factor, but when the Canadian wildfires came, you kind of get caught between a rock and a hard place because they want you to stay in the building with no air, and there's 85 degrees in the classroom, which, by the way, is illegal according to child care laws. But anyway, and you can't open the windows because of the Canadian wildfire, and you can't go outside. How is that good for any kid to learn?
How'd they get through that?
We kept them for a half day, and we had to go. We were able to get them dismissed early, but it was like taking a rock and squeezing it through a balloon without bursting the balloon because all they cared about was the contract says we got to run the program X amount of days. That's another thing that's wrong with public school. A lot of charter schools have more of a sense of family. Not all, but a lot of them, they have a sense of family. Public schools don't have that. And a lot of it comes from the people running it. And I'm not slamming them, but, you need more people who, to me, you need people who know the system, who know what it's like to be in the school. For instance, the mayor wants to have year-round school. I don't know all the specifics about it, but I know I would have started by meeting with teachers first.
are going to be paid all year round?
Well, not even that, but to get feedback from them. What are your thoughts on that? Because you're doing this, and if the union don't get on board, what you going to do?
I feel like a lot of these teachers are setting their ways as far as like, used to having that time off as a reset time to get recharged.
Some people became teachers because they wanted the summer off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and some people chose because you can get an option to get paid for 10 months and you know, work the summer or get paid for 12 months.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of people either they'll get a part-time job or something in the summer, but they need a break. You know, you're dealing with, especially now, you're dealing with some of these kids now, man, you need a break. You need a time to unwind. You need to spend time with your family. You know, you need to invest in your family. So I'm not against holiday school, but I like the reasons I hear is, you know, well, because they want crime. You know, crime is going to go down. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard, man. Criminals are going to still steal.
There's adults doing crime.
Yeah, but I'm saying young people, they still do stuff during school hours. They leave school and do stuff. You know, it's not funny, haha, but it's funny, LOL, because you got these folk out there now during the day. These kids will get this new thing is to go shoplift from Wawa.
Oh yeah, they're shutting that down.
You know, yeah, but my point is that's happening during the school day. So how's someone going to fix that? You know, kids, and when it gets June, kids don't want to have come to school. Attendance starting to drop. So what do you think is going to happen when it's July and August? You know, and so it has to be, you know, we got to find better ways. We got to find better ways, man. You know, and that's where it gets tricky because in order to find better ways, a bunch of folk have to come to the table. Like, why can't public and charter school get in a room and hash out some ideas, man? You know, hey, you got some stuff I like. You got some stuff, you know, we like. Let's kind of hash this out and see if we can come up with a plan and work together to give our kids the best possible education.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, why isn't there like some kind of convention? Like
I don't know because the money issue. I do know because of money. Because every time a kid leaves a public school, you know, they lose money. But it's no different if you kick a kid out, you still got the kid lives in your district and you still got to pay for them. So they're losing money. And now with Jay-Z, that's even more, another option kids are going to be able to go. And again, you taking the cream of the crop though. You taking the best. So you know that's going to do your school scores now.
I also feel like that would create some resentment among these kids. You know, like say, you know,
I don't think kids care.
Deep down, like say you had a friend, like you find out they're able to go, you know, to a better school while you're still sitting here in a school with no AC.
I mean,
after a little bit, I would be a little upset, especially if our grades are similar. You know, he just had the opportunity, not it.
See, I don't know if I would be upset. I don't know if I would be upset. That I don't know. I mean, I would be upset that I'm losing a friend. But I don't know that I would be upset because I think you should always want the best, you know, for your kids. I think you should always, and for your friends. Mm-hmm. What I meant to say, you with your friends, you should always want the best. You know, so you should be happy for them. You know, you should be happy that your friend got a chance at a better education. You know, I think it may cause more of a problem on adults. Mm-hmm. You know, and another problem with that is more teachers are going to start to go that way because if the numbers increase for private school, you know, there's more opportunities for teachers. So now that's another, you know, pool that's going, resources going, this public school is going to take a hit. Mm-hmm. So it's just, you know, it creates some challenges, man. It does. But it just goes back to what I said. Improve your product. You know, figure out, you know, while you figuring out why they need to go to school year round, figure out how you can pay these teachers more. You know, figure out how they can have better supplies in the school. You know, teachers are not buying stuff out their pocket. You know, it's crazy that teachers got to buy stuff out their pocket, you know, and everybody knows, you know, so that's the kind of stuff you got to fix. You know, just don't sit around and say, oh, well, they lose, they're going, they taking money. Okay, well, what about the product? Because I got to be honest, man, you know, that's why you guys didn't go to public school.
You need a better curriculum.
You know, well, you need curriculum, you need resources, a lot of things. You know, and that's another thing Jay-Z could have did with his money. He could have given that money to the school district. You know, that was an easy fix. Get the money to the school district.
Now, I know we got like at least, 15, 16 more minutes left. I did want to touch on Father's Day, of course. You know, it is coming up. I'd just like to touch on the importance of it and why isn't it, as advertised as any of these other holidays.
And then you can get me my tangent. I don't have enough time. But no, I think to me, and this is I'm not going to say conspiracy, but I think definitely, from a society standpoint, it's on purpose. And the reason why I say it's on purpose because, I'll give you a perfect example. If you have a child, all they care about is you pay your child support. They don't care about the time you spend with your child. They don't. And, they don't care about that, man. You don't even see all the advertisements for Father's Day that you see for Mother's Day. You don't.
It's usually like a lawnmower or something.
Yeah,
or
but you don't see Mother's Day. There's advertisements on all over the place, man. A month before Mother's Day, Father's Day, maybe the week before. So even society doesn't put an emphasis on it. And then we talk about this all the time, and this is the part's going to get me in trouble. I think women don't put an emphasis on it. I think there's, if you do something wrong, they're all over it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think there's enough women celebrating their men either on Father's Day. I mean, because I think if you're a dad and you're doing what you're supposed to do, you should be celebrated. I know somebody will say, "Well, you're supposed to do it." Yeah, but there's a lot of dads who don't. I got a father class virtually going right now. I got like 100 dudes. Show up twice a week. They should be applauded. They're trying to learn how to be they're trying to learn how to be a better, mate. I think that's amazing.
I wonder if you ask them, like, if you polled that class, like, how many of you guys feel appreciated, especially around, like, Father's Day time, what would the answers be?
I don't have to poll them. I could tell you because we have those conversations. The answer would be probably 70% would say no.
That's a pretty big percentage.
I think so because, but also out of 70%, how much of it is real and how much of it is perceived. Mm-hmm. So do let me say that
is
because some people think they're not appreciated because nobody's kowtowing to them, and maybe some people think they're not appreciated because they're comparing themselves to somebody else. Well, JoJo's wife, she does this. Well, maybe JoJo's wife has more finances or better means. Mm-hmm. Maybe their relationship is a little different. But I would say about 70%. Because a lot of guys do. And I'm talking about older guys. They don't always feel appreciated because I do think, as the average, they're not. Because what's the first thing you hear when somebody says, "Oh, we're going to celebrate him"? Well, you're supposed to do that. That's the first thing you hear. I've never heard anybody say that about a mom. I've never heard anybody say when they start saying, "Oh, this mom, she this mom." Everybody, yeah, she's working, doing all this great stuff. She's working hard, independent. Nobody ever says, "Well, she's supposed to do that." But when it comes to a dude, that's what they're supposed to do. And it's not everybody. We did the thing at Edmonds Elementary, and we were high-fiving the kids when the kids came in, and we were fist bumping, and we were cheering them on when they came to school. And the kids loved even middle school kids. And it was amazing because, I think that the adults were more excited because they just wasn't used to it. Because somebody said, "Yo, can I film y'all? This is what black men are supposed to be doing." This is, so I think this whole dilemma is painted that we don't do things. And there's a lot of black men doing a lot of good things. And I think that's it. When I go into the school and I took a bunch of guys, the first question everybody asks is not what y'all doing here. Mm-hmm. Where you get those guys from? It's almost like we've become an anomaly and we're just not real. And I think that is starting to permeate through society. And that's what people hear the narrative and they believe it.
Now, has it always been this way? Like when you were growing up?
No, man, my dad ain't miss. If he wasn't working, he ain't make it back to school. And it was nothing for my dad. It was not for me to see my dad. I didn't even know he was at the school.
But I'm talking in terms of like Father's Day, Like,
no, we always celebrated my dad. I think we always, and everybody knew celebrated their dad. Mm-hmm. I had a couple of friends that didn't have one, but yeah, everybody knew that. It was a big deal. It was a big deal in school because we had projects. We were out of school before Father's Day. Actually early on we didn't get out to after Father's Day, but we would make cards, we would make stuff. It was talked about in school. It was constant reminders. Now.
Then when did this switch flip where it was like, that's what you're supposed to do, this and that?
I couldn't tell you when. I couldn't tell you when, man. No, I couldn't tell you when it flipped.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, how do you end up getting back on track then, Because like you said, fathers, they should be just as celebrated as mothers.
Well, I think
equally both do a lot.
But I think it starts with dads. I think dads have to step up more. No, I think more dads. There's a lot of good dads out there, but there's also a lot of deadbeats. And it's like they always go to the negative. They'll always get the deadbeat dad, that the dad is in court, the dad don't do anything. So I think that's more dads got to step up.
Mm-hmm.
I think, more dads have to be a little more, have to be present. Not just be a provider, not just be the principal in the house or the priest in the house, but they got to be present. They got to show up to back to school night. When the kids having a problem in school, they got to show up. I think those are key ingredients. But I think women also got to say, my dude is doing the right thing. Because the women who do not doing the right thing, that's who you hear from.
Mm-hmm.
And we at work, we always had to go back and forth a little bit, man, because I'm the only dude. Got our women who work for me in the manager part. So, and I always joke about how everybody makes a big deal about Mother's Day. Father's Day, you can go to a restaurant and throw a rock and not hit anybody. Mm-hmm. Mother's Day, you can't buy a card literally probably a month before Mother's Day. Father's Day, you can go that day. Pick any cards you want to pick out the store. It's different. And so a lady was telling me, well, that's just the way it is because men don't do. And then we got into the whole thing about men don't do. You don't know how men. Maybe your man didn't do it, but that's not representation of the whole population of males. So I think that has a lot to do with it too, because we just I don't hear many men publicly bashing women. I'm not saying it doesn't happen because it does, but when I'm in conversation, nobody says, "Wow, she ain't no real mom." I've never heard somebody say that. She don't deserve no Mother's Day gift, but I hear women say.
Which kind of leads me to another question. Why are, I'm not saying all women here, but I feel like why are, especially on Father's Day, a lot of women are comfortable saying, I am the mom and the dad. Which also
I'm really trying to get in trouble.
Division. I'm just curious.
I remember when that phrase first started being used, and I think when it first started being used, original origin, they meant in terms of taking care of the child. They meant in terms of being a provider because they didn't have any help. Nobody was helping them financially. Mm-hmm. They were taking on. But I think it's evolved into people really think they're the mom and the dad, and you're not, because every boy is going to find some man to affirm manhood, whether it's a rap or whatever, or that's why you have some guys, and single moms do a great job, but that's why you have some guys who may be a little feminine, I watched this video the other day where somebody sent me a video and this lady was talking to another lady and she was getting about the way she speaks to her son because, you beating that boy down. You're destroying him. When he becomes a man, he's going to have that thing. He's just going to be used to beat down, submissive, and he's going to struggle in his relationship. And she was pointing out to her friend all the stuff you do that's damaging that boy. So this boy, from 16, when he becomes, you've been doing this on for 16 years, he becomes a man, get into a relationship. Those are the characteristics, the attributes he's taking into the relationship. So that's the way it is. Or you'll hear a woman, try to shape a boy into what she thinks a man should be. It don't work like that. It don't work like that. So, and single moms do a great thing. I don't want to say that, they don't. But I think just like every girl is going to look at some man to see what's the definition of a husband is. That's just a fact of life. That's animals do the same thing. Mom and they associate, this is what dad does. This is what mom does. They know that. So it's not new. We've just kind of taken it and forgotten about it and kind of put it over here on the shelf. And now we used to saying that, but you can't, you don't have the things a guy has. First of all, I know what the difference when you're talking to you and talking to Nicole, there's a difference, and the needs are different. So, and I think a lot of it is we think we're supplying the right thing, but we're not. Mm-hmm. We're doing what we think a man should be. That's like me saying I can be a man and a woman. I can't because I just don't know. So it's interesting, man. It's interesting.
Yeah, it definitely is definitely an interesting time we're in. Just I had one more last question. I know we're getting close to wrapping up here. What is your favorite Father's Day memory? It could be one with, your father, my grandpa, or it could be one that we all celebrate together.
I have two. I'm going to start back.
Share them both.
The funny one is when you guys gave me the lawnmower.
I was going to mention that, by the way, yeah.
You
were excited, though.
Well,
I said you were excited, though.
But it was funny because, everybody took a picture and it was posted. So I'm in the barbershop, man. And we having this discussion, man. And they like, yo, and somebody said, yeah, you sit in a lawnmower like Prince Akeem. So it was just funny, and everybody was like, yeah, man, that's pretty cool, and I don't know anybody else who could say their kids gave them a ride anymore. I don't, everybody's buying them, so to me, that was pretty cool, man. And y'all and your mom, y'all chipped in and y'all got me a ride anymore. That's like a once in a lifetime thing, Still waiting for that car, by the way, but I just think that's a once in a lifetime thing. And my dad, I think the best Father Day I can remember what my dad was. I gave him a tie, and he wore the church a bunch of times.
Remember what color? Do you have the tie?
No, it was a burgundy tie, burgundy and gray, because my pop used to dress, fly on a little water tie. It was a burgundy and gray tie, man. And my dad is the reason why I got into suits and stuff, but he did. And I'll never forget, he wore it to church a lot.
I've seen you have a lot of burgundy and gray ties.
Yeah, so I think that was the best one with him, man. Yeah, by far.
That's interesting. All right. Well, another great episode of Above Average Black Man. We touched on a lot of topics. Definitely let us know what you guys are thinking. Public schools versus charter schools versus private schools. And also, Father's Day, what's important to you? Your favorite memory. It could be one with your dad or one with your kids. Definitely let us know on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Podbean. We're a lot of places. Spotify especially. And again, Chris, we hope you feel better, going through some tough times, but get well soon. Other than that, it's Devin Pender here.
Chris Pender Sr.
And we will see you guys next week. Thank you for tuning in. And again, like, follow, subscribe, share, comment. That's enough energy for y'all.
You got it.